I know you're thinking we were live last night with a show. That's right, 2 nights in a row. Can you believe it? So we spoke. We couldn't help ourselves, Seth and I. We needed to talk about Hellraiser. Nate was ready to talk about it a day later. Maybe briefly we can get some of his thoughts on the movie. But today we're going to be talking about the Universal classic, really the movie that kicked off the Universal horror cycle, is the word I keep using, with 1931's Dracula. And of course, Frankenstein came shortly after, and then a slew of other movies that we got. But we'll also touch on Dracula's Daughter, which came out in 1936, which I think is a direct response, not a response, but because of how well Bride of Frankenstein did. They made Dracula's Daughter the year later, which I heard that James Whale was going to be the director, but they couldn't get him, and I think it would have been a better movie that way. We'll get into that a little bit, and we'll talk about the son of Dracula. I keep wanting to say Frankenstein, with Lon Chaney Jr., Alucard, and yeah, that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So if you're here with us, comment, let us know you're here. Hit the like button, subscribe, of course, all that good stuff, and I'll bring in the gentleman. Seth, I feel like I saw you yesterday.
It's just a mirage.
All right. How you doing today?
I'm all right. How are you?
What's the temperature up there?
It wasn't bad. I think it got to the 60s today, but it's just colder in my basement.
I'm gonna get you a space heater.
All right.
for the episodes this winter.
All right.
Because I know it can get cold where you are. It gets cold here too, but not like not as frigid as it gets where you are. I know that for sure.
Yeah.
You're up in the Northeast. I always want to say Central America, but it's not. I'm not in Brazil or anything like that. I'm in Mid America, close to St. Louis. Anyway, glad to have you back. Did you get the chance to watch the movies? I know that yesterday you said you've seen Dracula 1,000 times, not to mention the Philip Glass scored Dracula a bunch.
Yeah.
But Dracula's Daughter and Son of Dracula, did you get a chance to check those out?
No, but I've seen them before. So.
Yeah. Okay, let's bring in Nathan. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I missed the Hellraiser talk last night, but I needed to watch it again. I didn't feel like I was prepared to, because when I watched it the first time, I had been up for like 27 hours or something, and I had something else on my mind. I was watching it, so even though I was distracted, exhausted, I still thought it was pretty decent. I was like, I need to watch it again. And I even saw a guy today just shitting all over it in a horror group. I went to his page and then I looked at his latest post and said, Hellraiser gets better every time I watch it. It's really getting good. Maybe people should watch it more than once and say it's the worst thing they've ever seen. But
yeah, it's like what Keith said. I'm going to stick to that. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 times before you can really grasp a movie, and not for me. I really liked Hellraiser from the get-go. When I was watching it, I told Seth yesterday when I was watching it, I kept thinking, I'm like, I hope Seth likes this, because you know how big of a fan he is. And by the end, I'm like, man, I like that a lot. I bet Seth liked it. And I wanted to talk to him so bad right after, but I think I was the first one of us to watch it. And he had to wait like another 24 hours to watch it or something like that. So what were your initial thoughts on the new Hellraiser?
like I said, I liked it. I was just really tired, distracted. But watching it again, yeah, I really thought it was well done. Like I haven't even seen all the Hellraiser movies because I know a lot of the direct-to-video sequels were probably, they even looked kind of like. Every once in a while, you hear somebody bring them up, but rarely anybody ever like just raves about Hellraiser 7 or whatever the hell it is. I don't know.
Yeah,
I do.
Maybe Seth does, but all right, Hellraiser 6. I don't know where
that's a good one. The end's great. Kirsty in it.
But anyway, this is a really well. I mean, Dave Bruckner's really good, and like it looks like a bigger film than I think any of the Hellraisers made. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I didn't see all the sequels, but does this look like the highest production movie look-wise, production design
Since
that they've
Bloodline,
had?
probably.
Because it looks like a big Hollywood movie to me.
Yeah.
And some people say, well, that's what's wrong with it. No, it's not Hollywood in bad Hollywood. It's the art direction, the cinematography. It just looks really good all around. Sometimes it gets a little dark, but that's because I was in a lit room. If you turn the lights out in a room, you can see it a little better.
Yeah.
But and I was watching it in my smaller TV. I didn't watch it in the living room. Anyway, I really liked the lead actress. I thought she was very commanding. Like my wife said, I'm getting Julia Roberts vibes from her, like young Julia Roberts vibes. And I said, she reminds me more of like Deborah Winger a bit. A little scrappy, curly haired, brunette girl. Like there was something about her. I think she could. I haven't seen her before. I don't know if she's done a lot before this, but I could see her. I could see her popping up in future stuff because she has a great, unique look about herself. She doesn't look like every other actress out there. And I thought she was really good. She was very believable in the character. The whole idea of the drug addiction, and people have been saying she doesn't have an arc. Like nobody has an arc. No. Bullshit. She doesn't have an arc. Like she does. She makes a choice at the end. Like she grows over the course of this film. She makes wiser, more level-headed choices. She tries to get clean. She throws the pills down at one point. She picks up the bottle of pills. I can't remember, something like, this is good stuff. And then she gives it to the guy, like her brother's boyfriend. Like she does make changes in her life, and like I don't want to give anything away, but she definitely has an arc. I think she's very likable. I think if someone says, "Well, I can't root for some druggie," well, you probably rooted for Taryn and Dream Warriors, didn't you? I mean, it's kind of, she was in the same boat. I don't know. I really liked her. I like the brother. I like I like the story. I like the. I don't know a whole lot about the Hellraiser lore. I know mostly the first movie. I haven't read the book in 20 years or so. But I like the whole level of the configurations and what they mean and what they bring. How the steps and the sacrifices. The Cenobites, my God, they were amazing looking.
Did you guys see that video I shared with you?
Yeah.
Man.
They are incredible looking. I thought they were really unique. And, I really liked it more the second time. Again, it was the actual... today's viewing of it was the fair viewing because, again, the first one, it could have been my favorite movie of the year, and I would have been like, it was all right, I guess. I was just so tired. The first time I saw The Witch, I saw it in the theater, dead dog tired, and was like, now I think it's like the best horror movie of the last 20 years.
Yeah, and not to mention, I told you about my experience with The Witch as well. I'm glad. Seth and I spoke last night about how great it would be to see this on the big screen. I'd love to see it on the big screen.
Yeah,
I think it deserves to be on the big screen. I
have like the Hulu that has commercials, so it's a little weird to be in like watching Hellraiser like first time, all of a sudden fucking,
Oh man, you had the commercial pop up.
Commercial pops up. Progressive, like, fuck.
Yeah, that's
just getting chains dragged into them and like, hey Flo, it's John Hamm.
Yeah, that kind of pissed me off Friday when I was watching it. Like it just felt like it like ruined the momentum.
Mm-hmm. But then again, it's like, well, I used to watch movies like this all the time when I was a kid because everything was
true. Yeah,
either on TV, there was commercials, but I guess we're spoiled. But yeah, it just feels weird. You're watching this brand new movie and you're like, oh, cool, and all of a sudden there's fucking commercials. Like, what?
At least I think Hulu's gotten better about the commercial choices. I remember for a long time they had the same Hot Pockets commercial every commercial break, and it was like, oh my God. Like every time we watch something that pop up, it's like, I get it. You want us to get these brick oven Hot Pockets. I get it. But yeah, I think, yeah, I'd love to see it on the big screen. I hope that if there's a sequel, which I don't see why there wouldn't be, this has been all over the internet the last few days. Uh, I hope Bruckner does the sequel. I'd like to see more from him because between this and the Night House, he's got the chops to be one of the, like I said last night, one of the top horror directors in this generation, in my opinion.
Yeah, hopefully the fandom that hates this movie doesn't hold that to them. They did with like Rob Zombie or whatever. Like, everybody loved Rob Zombie and Devil's Rejects, and then he made Halloween, and everybody's like, "Fuck that guy for the next 30 years." It's just going to be fuck that guy.
Well, maybe Hellraiser isn't as high profile as something like a Halloween.
Yeah, it's not, and it's not a remake. It's not. Yeah. I mean, some people are thinking it's a remake. I guess it. I mean, it's a new. Cenobites are kind of. I mean, the Chatter and Pinhead are in here, and they're different versions. So I don't know how we classify it, but it doesn't tell the Julius Frank story, so it's not really a remake. It's just a reboot, I guess. Falls into a more reboot thing.
And I'm really glad they didn't tell that story. I hope they stay away from anything told before, if in future films. But I want to see Jamie Clayton come back and be a part of another movie, and I want to see more Cenobites because these Cenobites look great. That video, I don't know if you guys watched it. It was like 90 minutes, but it was worth watching, showing production stills of all the makeup effects and stuff like that. It was so cool. And you get to hear from the effects team also. But anyway, glad everybody's liking Hellraiser. It's number 3 currently on my list for the year. Seth has it at number 1, and Nate, you said you put it at number 6 at the moment, right?
I think it's at 6, yeah. It's been like you were talking about, it's been a good, strong year for horror.
It's been a really good year for horror. I'm gonna kill this fucking fly, I swear to God. I'm gonna rip its wings off. Luckily, I can't like teleport, otherwise, I'd be in trouble. But anyway, we'll talk about more Hellraiser at the end of the year when we do our top 30 or whatever. Well, I think we did 30 last year. When we do our end of the year show, but Seth wants to get into, and we'll probably do that next year, but get into a spoilery episode of the Hellraiser film, because we were felt hamstrung last night trying not to spoil anything, and all we wanted to do was talk about where it went and some of the gory details about the story, because it was good. I went in with low expectations and came out the other side very happy. So did Seth. He saw it 3. Have you ever watched it again since we last spoke?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'd watch it again. I think because it's got enough complexity in it that you kind of don't grasp everything really.
Yeah.
So many things hitting you as she's discovering things. Yeah, I could see catching even more. Yeah, I think it's a good 3 viewings, and you should have a good judgment of whether you like it or not.
We'll have to do a deep dive in January, maybe, once we get through this. We got a lot of stuff to cover in the next couple months anyway. And plus, we got to get back to our never seen pick movies. Those are fun episodes when we get to do those, which we'll be back to doing that in November. But tonight, we are talking about the man himself and his daughter and his son, Dracula. It's I always say it's my favorite Universal movie. I think it's because I'm a big fan of Dracula in general. That imagery of the shirt, the cape, all that stuff. That was something I saw a lot as a kid. And growing up, I always wanted to be a Dracula. I was Dracula probably 3 or 4 times for Halloween, and of course, Bela Lugosi is the template for any version of Dracula that you see anymore. I mean, he's the iconic look for the character. So then it all comes from this movie, or the Spanish version if you want. But I don't know. I watched it. I love it still, but something. I'm starting. I talked about Son of Frankenstein, how much I love that. That's starting to really become my favorite, I think, of the Universal movies. But I still love Dracula. I did get to see it twice this year. I watched it with the Philip Glass score, and I saw it with the original or whatever Blu-ray score with Swan Lake at the beginning. And I tried watching Spanish Dracula, but I fell asleep watching it. And didn't go back to it because I've seen it before and I know the big differences, like the title card, dialogue, and some of the like the crane shot. And I don't know if you guys have seen the Spanish Dracula film, but and there's a lot of things I found out about Todd Browning's version versus the Spanish one the studio involvement stuff that kind of bugged me. Cuts that they made because of the studio, because of the state of I guess the United States in 1931. They didn't think like there's a scene where they showed the fang marks on the victim's neck, and they show a close up of it in the Spanish version, but in the in the regular Todd Browning, they're like up in the nosebleed seats of that. It's like damn, the shot is more effective. But in Carlos Villarreal or Villa, I can't remember his name. He was good, but he's not Bela Lugosi. So Lugosi had something about him. Anyway,
I like that the Spanish version, like they said that they would hang out on Todd Browning set watching what they shot that day, and then like go, oh, we can top that.
yeah.
So they would their intention every night when they were shooting was to outdo what Todd Browning did.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's why, like you see that's how they handle it, or we're going to do it this way.
They also got a lot of their like table scraps, if you think about it. Like there was like whatever they cut from the Browning movie, they would add into the Spanish movie, and Bela Lugosi's in the Spanish one too. They used the shot of him in that movie. I think when he gets to London. But yeah, they are different. I think the Spanish version is 30 minutes longer, and there's more dialogue, and some of the dialogue's better. Some of the shots are even better, but I still think I prefer Lugosi's version or Browning's version better. I swear to God, I need a fly swatter. So anyway, what about you guys? What do you guys think, Seth? I know you're a big Wolfman guy, and you seem to really attach yourself to the Frankenstein movies. What are your thoughts on Dracula?
I've always loved Dracula. That was one of the earlier ones that I've seen. Dracula and Creature from the Black Lagoon, I think, were the two of the Universal monster movies that I've seen at my youngest age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've always loved it. Yeah, I don't know. I was when I got on VHS, I watched it a lot, and I especially like watching it with the Philip Glass score.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's always been one of my favorites. As far as the Spanish one goes, I think the direction is a little bit better in the Spanish one, more so than the other one. But like, because Todd Browning's movie is more like it's like a stage play on screen. That's what it kind of feels like. Whereas,
absolutely, yeah. There's a lot of static shots. Like I was mentioning the crane shot they used in the Spanish version, where it's a static shot of Lugosi coming down the staircase, where the crane. It's really kind of impressive shot for 1931 on the Spanish version. But go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, but I mean, then again, you can't really top the performances in Dracula, especially Dwight Frye, who is my favorite part of the movie as Renfield. He's just like he's fantastic to watch, like every time.
Only seen the Gary Oldman, Keanu Reeves can't do a British accent. Oh man, Sean, if you're still out there, you need to check out some classic horror, man.
Music.
These are good. Have you seen the Hammer films? You're from England. I mean, that should be,
Required.
yeah, that should be required viewing if you're over there. Hey, what about you, man? I know this one's not high on your list, but
I mean, growing up, Dracula was like the shit. Like I was Dracula for Halloween at least 3 times.
Right? Yeah.
Preschool, I've even got pictures.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I told you in the group. Knowing that the studio made them cut stuff. Apparently, they said it was too frightening or something, and they made him cut a bunch of shit. And Todd was not very happy with what the released version was of the film. So that makes me wonder, because I feel the movie's kind of choppy.
Yeah.
And one thing that I think one of the reasons Dracula feels the way it does, it was an early talkie, and Todd Browning was a veteran silent film director. He had directed so many silent films, and he was great. But I think he had a hard time transitioning to sound. He got better. I mean, he made Freaks the next year, and Freaks is it's a lot better made than Dracula as far as a talkie for Todd Browning. Yeah. But I think this was probably his early transition. I don't know if this was his first talkie or not. It could have been, because he would film, like, it's filmed like a silent film. So there's those long takes, and it's all visual. And I heard he had a hard time with dialogue, and he wanted to cut as much dialogue as he could. Some of it's shot kind of boring, like Seth said, kind of like a stage play being shot or something. We talked
Very
about
much so, I think.
Yeah, we talked about it on the Mummy show. How Carl Friend, who'd been the cinematographer, shot a lot of the film when Todd Brown. Apparently, the shoot was very disorganized, and Todd Browning apparently really didn't want to make the movie, from what I read, and he really, I guess maybe his heart wasn't in it.
The 13th Chair is his first talkie.
Okay.
1929. Sorry, go ahead.
29. Okay, so how many movies did he make between that and Dracula? Did he make any?
He made one other movie it was a remake of his own movie called Outside the Law.
Okay. So he's still getting his feet wet on top, like, sound film.
Yeah.
And he's still probably in the mentality of visual silent film. Even has, like, insert cards, newspaper thing, a lot of stuff that you would see in silent film.
Mm-hmm.
But I really do. I do like the film. But I at the same time, like, I get frustrated a little bit watching it because of that. Because I feel like there were missed opportunities, or there's some awkward editing and some shots or things seem they take too long. And some people said that's because the actors were even performing like they were still in silent film, so they would do long, slow motion things, and it felt like it was. Like when Lugosi takes the girl, like the flower girl, it's like it goes forever, and like it's like almost to the point where it's funny. If you're like, my wife was laughing, my wife and daughter were laughing watching it. It's like, what's he doing? And she's like, oh. It's very, very awkward. And I mean, there's a lot of those movies like that. So I get. I look at it and I go, you've got this great story, you got this great character, you got this great actor playing Dracula. I thought about that today. Like, people talk about how great Bela was. Bela played him on stage like 260 times before this. Like, you better be fucking good.
Yeah.
Like, this is like his 270th time playing the part. Like, not a lot of actors get that chance to do, unless you're like Olivier doing Hamlet in the film, and you've played him on stage hundreds of times. But it's like, oh yeah, of course he was good. He knew what he was doing. I don't dislike it, because it is such an iconic thing. When I think of Dracula, like everybody, I think of Bela Lugosi. I think of that voice. I think of that face. I think of that. His body language, especially, is really cool.
Yeah.
I love the creeping on Renfield when he pricks his finger. It is really cool. I mean, there's just something about his physicality, and I agree with Seth. Like, Dwight Frye is the best thing about the film. Renfield's character is the most interesting character in the film, the most interesting performance. I wish there was more Renfield in the movie. I'm glad that they changed Harker to Renfield in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Uh-oh. Yeah, that laugh on the boat is one of my favorite scenes from Renfield. When Renfield's doing the hee laugh, that's so creepy. Um, Nate, you cut out for a sec. Everything cool? Nate, can you hear us? Oh no. He'll be back. But yeah, scenes like that, and then the scene where he's kind of crawling up towards the servant lady, and you don't know what's going to happen, but you see her alive later, so nothing happened. The Spanish version, he's going for a fly. Uh, okay. Joel Grounds ate Nate's soul. He must be a Cenobite.
Say what?
Oh, we were talking about some of the scenes with Renfield, with the scene where he is crawling up to the servant girl, and it cuts away from there because it leaves you with what did he do to her, and then of course the laugh when they discover him on the boat is how great is that,
That's crazy,
And
man.
plus the grin on his face,
Yeah,
like, geez, how
that's why
creepy can you get?
yeah, I'm a big Alice Cooper fan, and he has a song, "The Ballad of Dwight Frye," which he still does at every live performance. I don't know if you ever heard that one.
Mm-mm.
You got to listen to "The Ballad of Dwight Frye," and when Alice performs it, he performs it in a straitjacket on stage. All the lights go down. He's in a spotlight. He's in a straitjacket, and it's basically he's nuts. He's gone nuts, and he's like, it's this really cool song. And Alice talked about it. It was on. It was the third Alice Cooper album. And it was like the first real Alice Cooper album. Like the first two Alice Cooper albums were not like the Alice Cooper we know, but it's the album with "I'm 18" on it. And again, it wasn't one of the big singles, but it's still one he plays live every show because of the visuals and the it's just him with a spotlight on in a straitjacket singing this song about being in an asylum, going crazy. And when they recorded it, there's a part at the end of the song where he's like, "I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here." Right? When he recorded it, they just put him in the studio and like put all these chairs or something all over him, and he just like started like they just recorded him saying that. But he said that to him Dwight Frye was the scariest fucking guy in all those Universal monster movies. He said like as Fritz and as Renfield and as Carl. He said, and really, like Dwight Frye got typecast, and people really don't talk about him. Like Alice Cooper dedicating the song to him. It's like one of the only times I've heard Dwight Frye mentioned.
Yeah, but and it's crazy because he plays different characters, but he's all over the Universal horror movies.
Yeah, he's always good, but he was so underused outside of like Renfield and Fritz, really.
Yeah. It's a shame. He's good, and
I was even talking before we went on. He has a Peter Lorre kind of vibe about him.
Oh yeah,
just absolutely. A British version of Peter Lorre.
Yeah, I agree with that. And these are a couple of the scenes I was talking about that I really stick out when you think of Dwight Frye in this movie. I mean, there's the beginning scene when he's talking to Dracula in the castle and all that stuff, but those two are really the kind of like the ones that would kind of make your skin crawl, and he did a fantastic job
and just him
in that role.
The orderly and the conversations he has, like when he wants his spiders, I get fat spiders, like I don't know, you threw them away. There's just this really interesting performance that rarely is ever spoken about when Dracula comes up. It's always Bela Lugosi or Van Sloan but I don't think anybody. I think he's better than everybody in the movie. Honestly, Bela is good, but Bela's totally. A lot of Bela is just staring. Light up his eyes.
Light up his eyes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, of course, that Hungarian voice and accent, and but Dwight is like. He's the interesting character actor in this film that steals the scenes that he's in.
Yeah, I agree with that. I saw Seth shaking his head too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, You got anything to add to that, Seth?
No, I mean I've always talked very highly about Dwight Frye. He's, like I said, he's just like one of those. It's just one of those performances I always enjoy every time I watch the movie. I'm always reminded about how good he is in that role, and he does steal the show. I think, you know, for a kind of a minor character, he's more memorable than Jonathan Harker.
Yeah.
You know, and all them. So
it's that's one of the things. Now, you guys know I love the horror of Dracula, the Hammer Dracula film, but that was always one of the things that bothered me is they cut the Renfield character completely out, and it's a shame because Renfield in this, and even in the 1992 Bram Stoker's Dracula movie, he's a good character, and they cut him completely out of that. But I mean, there's nothing, in my opinion. This scene always makes me giggle for some reason when I see it because it's just so creepy and so good. And when Helena saw it for the first time, she had this look on her face like she had just seen Steve Christie. It was pretty awesome.
That's the scariest scene in the movie in my book. It's laughing at the bottom of the stairs. He's gone mad.
I love the way they talk in that movie and all those movies. He's gone mad.
I like the orderly. Hey, that guy cracks me up. They're all going crazy or whatever.
Yeah.
Their nurse standing next to me was like,
So, have you guys, either one of you, seen the Spanish version? I asked, but I can't remember what you said.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
And like Seth said, it's better made than it is, but I'm not Spanish. And, you know, I can't understand it. And not that that's anything, but he's not Bela Lugosi. So, and the other guy's not Dwight Frye. And I mean, it's just not, other than visually being shot more interestingly than the Todd Browning. I'm going to watch the Todd Browning version.
Yeah, I think one of the things I like about it's little things like it's little. Okay, so like one of the things I noticed about the Spanish Dracula versus ours is the women are not as conservatively dressed in that movie, which they like throughout they get a little bit more provocative, and they show there's one scene that and they even said something about it. There's a scene in when Dracula bites Renfield that they wanted to cut because they thought it looked too homosexual. And okay, in the I like the other version, the Spanish version, because it's the brides that get to feed on Renfield, which I like. I thought that was a really cool moment. There's a couple different shots with the brides that I really like. I really like the way they look in both movies, and I wanted to see more of them. And you get a little bit more of them in the. They're both really good. It's hard to compare. They're not that much different overall. Some shots here and there, and some dialogue, but that's about it. The characters are all, for the most part, the same. But you get better performances throughout with the American version. Dwight Frye, as we've said, Edward Van Sloan, and Lugosi, of course, and even some of the other players. God, what's her name? The Helen Chandler. Even David Manners, who you've already spoken about him, and from the Mummy, right?
I saw the Manners and Van Sloan both thought the movie or script was a piece of shit.
Did they?
And Manners never even watched it. He just he had a very low opinion of the film. And Van Sloan apparently years later was talking to somebody he knew and said, "Hey, did you watch Dracula on TV?" He goes, "I feel sorry for you." He thought it was a piece of shit, even after seeing it and everything. So, who knows? I just know those two actors didn't care for the results.
No, I mean Van Sloan came back for another one. I guess maybe the money was good. I don't know. And he was in my opinion, he was a better actor. What about Frank? If you're talking about the Frankenstein movies, we're getting there. 2 weeks from now, we're doing Frankenstein movies. Because next week we're doing Halloween.
Frank Langella.
Or Frank Langella? I did an article on the HorrorSyndicate.com ranking the live-action Dracula movie actors, and Frank Langella was 5th, I think, if I remember correctly. His movie was kind of boring. Have you guys ever seen that one, the 1979 Dracula?
Yeah. My favorite will always be the Bram Stoker's Dracula.
92.
Francis Ford Coppola did.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah, Keanu Reeves is pretty, really miscast. It's just wild that he got cast in that part. But maybe that was I don't know what the story is behind that. But
his hair was nice. He's the poor man's Christopher Lee. Go ahead. I do love the 1992 movie. I would like to see a proper dark, gritty Dracula movie today, since the garbage that was Twilight, a good vampire movie, or a dime a dozen, if that.
I mean, is Dracula gritty though? Like the story? I mean,
no, not really.
If he wants gritty, get violent, watch the Hammer movies. I mean,
yeah, exactly. I mean, Dracula comes out with his fangs. They actually has his fangs. I think that was the first time you ever see Dracula's fangs on screen, and they got blood on them and his bloodshot eyes, and Christopher Lee's just tossing women around.
He's a ferocious vampire.
Yeah, he's very feral in that movie. Where Lugosi's, you don't ever see his fangs, you don't ever see bite marks, you don't ever see like anything. The most action he does is he slaps that mirror away.
Yeah, that's a great shot.
Yeah,
he looks at him like, yeah, I like that shot. That was the interesting thing about Bela, was no fangs, and I think outside of Nosferatu, which he doesn't really have the classic vampire fangs, that's 2 front pointy teeth, but the apparently it wasn't until the 50s till we saw it, like right before the Hammer movie, where I think it was a foreign vampire movie, or it's called Dracula with a K. It was Dracula with a K, and it had the first like actual Dracula with fangs.
Very edgy, that title, Dracula with a K.
Yeah, Dracula with a K. I don't know, it was like Turkish, or I can't remember where it was. But yeah, it's weird that you think about that, because he didn't have teeth. And I started to notice that I never see Bela's teeth, it's had a lot of speculation that he had bad teeth, or he hid his teeth a lot.
Yeah, because even when he smiles closed lip, basically. He may have, I don't know.
They said he could have blackened his teeth or something. I don't. You can't really even see his teeth, even his bottom teeth sometimes.
I never thought about that. Maybe that's why they didn't show the fangs. Huh. Anyway.
But then, like, none of the other guys had them either. Lon Chaney and John Carradine, they didn't have fangs.
Man. After rewatching Son of Dracula, boy, oh boy.
I don't remember it. I've seen it twice.
It's not very memorable.
I just was bored by it. I didn't think Lon Chaney was a good Dracula. Dr. Aguilar, Mr. Aguilar. Alucard or whatever. It's just, I don't know.
Think about Monster Squad.
Yeah. It's just a dull, forgettable movie, I think.
It's got a great ending, though.
Huh?
It's got a great ending, though.
It's got a good ending. I guess this is like the ghost of the mummy, or Mummy's ghost of the.
Yeah.
It's got a good ending.
Think about it. The ending's the best part. Oh, there's a couple scenes that I like in there, like when the one guy tries to shoot Alucard, and the bullets go through him, and he hits the girl he loves, but not knowing, what had happened to her. Which also, I thought it was interesting that there was kind of a twist in that one where she had been turned, and she just wanted to turn him and get rid of Alucard or Dracula or whatever, which I thought was kind of cool too. But yeah, overall, like after watching it again, it's very forgettable. That movie. And
talking about endings, the ending of Dracula is kind of
it almost abruptly ends.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, well, here, give me that hammer and this thing. I got to kill this guy. You go get your girl. And then he goes to get the girl in here. Off camera, you hear it's all sound effect. And you're like,
yeah, it's like Dr. Loomis in Halloween 6.
yeah, it's like really kind of like, that's it? Like, you could, I mean, I know it's 1931, but we just talked about The Mummy where you see a guy getting impaled, with the spear.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe it's still like it sounds like with Dracula, there's a lot of studio involvement, and I don't know if it was Todd Browning or the editors or what.
Could have shot it. Yeah, it could have been the studio saying, too violent. We don't want people fainting.
Because there's a lot of cutaways in Dracula, and again in the Spanish version, there ain't not as many cutaways. There's a lot of like I said, you see the Fang, you see what Renfield is doing when he's creeping on that lady, on the servant lady. I don't know. I still like Dracula. I think it's a nostalgia thing for me overall. Why I like it so much. It's just I get in a giddy mood when I watch it. Same way when I watch Halloween. I watched Halloween, John Carpenter's Halloween last night, and I was all giddy excited, and that's how I feel when I watch Dracula. For all its flaws.
I can't remember. Maybe Nate.
Evil Dies Tonight?
No, I was going to say that for later.
Okay.
Was this before or after the production code there, the motion picture production code?
I think it's after.
It is after? Yeah.
I could be wrong. Oh, maybe not. Remember, because we were talking about the Mummy and how Carl told the actress that she was going to appear nude in the movie, topless.
Okay, yeah. That's right. It was probably, I think, 33 when it started or something like that?
Yeah, probably. It's probably because of movies like Dracula and Frankenstein and the Mummy and all
that. I got something here. The production code was 1934. 1968. It says, I'm reading the Wikipedia, so forgive me. It says the film was originally released with a running time of 85 minutes. When it was reissued in 1936, the production code was enforced. For that reissue, 2 scenes are known to have been censored. So the most significant deletion was the epilogue during the film's initial run.
Van Sloan does an epilogue. It's something like the Frankenstein prologue.
They also cut Dracula's death groans at the end of the film. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been just a cut because I read that Carl Laemmle was like, the movie's too frightening, and made him cut a lot of stuff out. So
I wish I could have lived back then to see what they mean by too frightening, because none of these movies ever in my life have ever really.
Yeah, like I mean, like there were scarier films before this, like Nosferatu. Of course, it's Germany. It's not under the same, not going to the same audience. Or Haxan. I mean, I'm talking about German movies. I guess that's probably what it is.
Well, the dreamlike Dr. Caligari also. That movie is very spooky.
Yeah,
for its time, especially.
Like I would watch. Like I was watching a lot of silent film over the summer, and not just horror, but everything. And so many silent films are bleak as fuck, like really bleak. A lot of homelessness, like characters who are just down on their in the gutter. A lot of prostitution stories.
How many of these were filmed during World War I and post World War I? Because that could be just a sign of the times. Plus, you had the plague of 1918, the Spanish flu. So I mean, it could be just the way the times were back then. A lot of times, there are films that reflect the times that they're made in. So
yeah, I would say World War I had an impact on the filmmaking of the early silent films. Just like if you watch European or Japanese films after World War II, especially, like those movies are just so much about the effects on society in those countries after that war.
Where are Dracula's teeth supposed to be, or meant to be? answer in the middle, which is how they are in Nosferatu, right? The two front teeth. Yeah. I don't know. They always put them on the. I don't know why they put them on the sides or whatever.
Yeah, like in the novel, I know they describe it. I heard that John Carradine was wanted for the Dracula in the first movie, and like when I look at John Carradine, I'm like, that guy looks like how I remember Dracula, like described in the book. Like I don't see, like when I read the book, I don't see Bela Lugosi. I see more like, I know they wanted Conrad Veidt, who would probably fit.
Yeah, I know that Dracula has a mustache in a lot of the novel.
But I remember he was tall and lean.
I mean, Lugosi's 6'1". He's not short.
Yeah.
Well, he was 6'1".
Supposed to be kind of lean and old, you know.
Yeah.
Not that John Carradine was old, but he wasn't. But.
Well, he looked old when he got to play Dracula. I think Christopher Lee, when he was Dracula in those 7 Hammer films, he complained about how, there was nothing like the books or the book, and even in appearance, even though he was, tall and lean, because Christopher Lee's like 6'6", I think, 6'5", and he got to actually play his closest representation in Franco Harris's, or Franco Harris, that's a football player, Jess Franco, his Italian Count Dracula movie, which I've never seen, but Christopher Lee got to play closer to the novel for the first time in that. He even had a mustache. Gotta love the mustache. I don't know. There's I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Cinemassacre. He did a Monster Madness for all these movies back in the day, and he's got this great video where he compares like 15 or 16 different versions of the Dracula, live action Dracula, from the Turkish movie that I think you were talking about, Nate, to the 2 BBC specials, Bram Stoker's, all of these, and to figure out which one is the closest to the novel, which I think it came out to be Bram Stoker's Dracula. But it's like an hour-long video. It's really interesting. I liked it. He kept the score on based on different points that are actually a part of the book and in the movie, which Christopher Lee's is way off from the movie itself.
Yeah.
Seth looks the most like Dracula. I can see that. I think he probably want to look more like the Wolfman, but he's got that behind him. I don't know. I think like after watching it again and talking to you guys a little bit, I do think my biggest reason I like Dracula so much is nostalgia. I love it because of how I feel about it. Just like Halloween 6. I love Halloween 6, even though it's awful. I don't think Dracula's awful. But yeah, huh?
So it's not awful.
It's not awful to me and you, but everybody else says it's awful. Nate, what do you think of Halloween 6? Is it great, good, or bad?
I don't say awful because I used to love that movie.
I love it.
The all I see are flaws now when I watch it because of all
Halloween 3 shirt right here.
Yeah, I don't know.
I like it. I like it. But
I still like it. It's not one of my favorites of the series though. It keeps dropping. I think its strengths are Paul Rudd and I think George Wilbur does a pretty good job in that one, and the masks they gave him. But
I think it was better than he did before.
Props. Everyone always goes on the, well, it feels like fall. It really feels like fall. It's like, well, so do Gordon's movie, or Daniel Gordon Green's movies, and everyone shits on those. And it's like, is it all about the fall, the leaves? Some people's arguments for things are quite funny. I just think the movie. I mean, we've heard that Chappelle didn't want to make the movie and didn't give a fuck, and they had all those problems. They scrapped it and tried to pull something else together. They didn't like the producer cut or whatever, and they did all these other different things. And it's like, it just feels like it's kind of a mess because of how they kept trying to Frankenstein it together with other ideas or rethink it or redo it, and then Donald Pleasance passing away just makes the ending feel kind of empty. And I don't know how much I love the heavy metal kind of soundtrack to it.
Sign of the times.
Yeah, I think the more and more I watch the '90s Halloween movies, the less they become my least favorites.
Yeah, not a
Well, I
big
guess
fan of
the
H2O.
Resurrection's not the '90s, but it might as well have been.
Yeah, it's very '90s, very early 2000s, very '90s. I'm looking forward to watching. I get to see Halloween Ends on Thursday, and I'm really looking forward to that. 5:30 p.m. So at 6:30, wherever you guys are, think Ray's watching Halloween Ends. That son
I'm
of a
going
bitch.
to the 5:45 show.
Well, screw you, Seth. You'll see it before me then. Is that what you want?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
I told Seth last night, I don't know if you caught that part, Nate. I know we're not supposed to be talking about Halloween, and we overkilled it last year, but I'm in the mood for Halloween after Halloween Kills is starting to really grow on me. Like last time I watched it, and then I was at the theater with Reynolds on Saturday seeing that movie Smile, which was not bad. I thought I liked it. But I saw they're playing 2018 and Kills before Halloween Ends, and I saw the poster across from me, and it was like starting in 5 minutes. I was like, man, I kind of want to go watch that. I like that. I'm like, do I like Halloween Kills now? And so like, I think it's really kind of growing on me. So it like that moment.
Once you get past all that repetitive dialogue, it's not a bad movie.
Well,
That's like you can't hold it all of that. You know?
My biggest, well, it wasn't even that. My biggest problem was that ending when he just got his ass handed to him by all the townsfolk, and he just got up and started, slashing his way to victory. It's like, come on, really? It's like that bugged me. But like beyond that, there's a lot of good stuff there. I like that they take it back to the Myers house, and it's a good movie. I can't wait to re-rank the Halloween movies because I think they're going to be different this year. I watched Halloween last night, 78's Halloween, and man, I love that movie. I mean, fuck, I love that movie. Donald Pleasance is so good. And talk about how Halloween 6, it's got the fall feeling. How does Halloween 4 not have the ultimate fall feeling, first of all? But like the fall feeling, I was watching Halloween last night, and I saw the leaves on the ground, and I kept thinking about the bag of leaves they had and how everything else around them was green. Like that's not great, but anyway. And then you pointed some things out too that were kind of interesting, but
it's a lot of flaws in the movie, but like there's a lot of flaws in all of them.
There's a lot of flaws in this Dracula movie too.
Like, I mean, usually the movie that doesn't get the most shit is part 2. I mean, part 1, I guess, but part 2 doesn't get any shit rarely, and it's like there's so many ridiculous things about Halloween 2, and it's not really a good story, and there's really not a lot going on. It's more of a Friday the 13th movie. And it's your protagonist is in a bed, a hospital in a fairly big city is empty. It's kind of weird.
Stalked by 2 people.
First of all, we all brought our candy to the hospital on Halloween back then, so to get X-rayed. So there would be a lot of families in there getting their candy X-rayed.
Yeah, the hospital's completely empty. I like Halloween 2 quite a bit, and
I love it, but I can't be like, well, I'm going to shit on this one, and I'm not going to shit on that one for that. I mean, really, if you just shit all over Halloween 2018 and just adore Halloween 2, you got to admit you're just rose-colored glasses. I mean, that's what it is. It's not that one's so much better than the other.
Yeah, well, we did a ranking last year. We're gonna have to update that at some point with Halloween Ends coming out. But anyway, I don't know. I'm getting pumped about how I'm gonna watch 2018 whenever we're done with the show tonight, and then Kills tomorrow to get ready for Halloween Ends, because I'm really looking forward to that. Anybody out there watching, are you really as excited as we are about Halloween Ends? I know Seth is more excited than anyone.
Yeah, and actually what I'm doing Thursday is I got the day off from work. My friends are going to come over early. We're going to watch 2018 and Kills back to back, and then go see Ends. Get that complete trilogy in one day.
I wish I could do that. I'll do that once I get it on Blu-ray.
I wasted a vacation day for it. So
hey, I mean, that's your thing. Halloween's your thing.
Yeah. It'll probably be arguably the strongest trilogy of the series.
Yeah, well, it's going to be one of those rare times where we have a complete beginning, middle, and end to a timeline.
Yeah.
So.
This guy really thinks you look like Dracula. He's spoken like a Dracula.
Don't give away my secret, Joel.
Yeah, this is why he's in the basement. Come on. Yeah, that's another thing we mentioned last night. Where we talked about at some point where Halloween 6 kind of leaves off without resolution, and so does Resurrection. And I don't know. It kind of depends on the Rob Zombie too. Which cut you watch?
To close. I think you could put those two movies together.
Well, they were going to make another one though, so.
Yeah, but he wasn't. I don't think he was going to make it. I think he kind of ended it for himself. Especially like in the director's cut, don't all three of them die at the end of the director's cut?
Yeah.
Corey and Loomis and Michael.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the whole thing with her at the very end for that final shot was like she was dead.
Yeah. Which I love. I remember watching the director. I hated Halloween 2, and then I watched the director's cut. And when she's laying there and they're playing that cover of Love Hurts, and it's pulling up above her, and the helicopter lights and all, it's like, damn, this is pretty strong. Like I like this, and it's a shame I didn't see that one in the theaters.
Nobody did. Yeah, I think Keith has that ranked very highly on his overall Halloween ranking, like maybe in the top 3 or 4.
I know a lot of people that's their favorite.
How can the first movie not be your favorite?
No. I've seen people put Resurrection above the first
movie.
Get
the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
join Halloween fan groups. You'll see.
No, I don't want to.
I got added to when I did the Halloween Resurrection German release Blu-ray artwork. I got added to a Halloween Resurrection fan club on Facebook out of that. And these people, that was their favorite. And there was a guy that ran it, that the Resurrection was not just his favorite Halloween movie, it was his favorite movie. And so I was just really curious about it. I was like, was this the first one you saw? He said, yeah. I was like, was this like one of the very first movies you saw? He said, yeah. I was like, okay, it's cool. That's how first movie experiences are.
Yeah, I mean,
I like Nightmare on Elm Street 2 because it was the first one I saw.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. I mean, that's why I like Children of the Corn so much. That was one of the first movies I ever saw, period. And it's not that great, really. I mean, it's the best of that, 10-movie franchise, but.
And if you think about it, like, if you don't have any, like, knowledge of Halloween and you watch Halloween Resurrection, you have no baggage. You have no expectations.
That's true.
So you're just watching a horror movie.
Mm-hmm, that's true. You have no idea, like, what. Yeah, that's a good point. The new Hellraiser film we covered in a show yesterday and at the beginning of this show, we all loved it. If you haven't watched it, watch it. But yeah, that's a good point. Like, I mean, for me, I never saw Elm Street 1 when I saw 2, and it blew me away, but I was 6.
My first Halloween movie was Part 3. I had no idea.
Was it really?
Yeah, I didn't.
Oh.
I just thought it was a creepy movie. It was a weird, creepy movie.
I got lucky. Well, no, not really. I saw one scene of Halloween 2 on the way out the door going babysitting, going trick-or-treating when I was like 6 or 7 years old. And it was the scene where Ben Tramer gets hit by the car. And that scene in 2. And that kept me from wanting to go trick-or-treating that night. I was like, we're going to get hit by a car. But yeah, I saw Halloween before I saw any of the other ones. Which I saw it right before Halloween 4 came out, and which prompted me to want to see Halloween 4 immediately, which I love Halloween 4. I think we all do. Anyway, it's a good Dracula episode.
Let's get to Dracula's Daughter since we're an hour in.
We haven't talked about Halloween in a while, and I'm stoked about the new movie, so I can't help it. Like, one last thing, I said it last night, but I think that with 2018, I said this movie gets worse over time, but like after Kills, I think it's getting better now for me. So I'm looking forward to watching it tonight. So Dracula's Daughter. That's green face.
I like Dracula's Daughter myself.
There are things, after watching it again, there are things I like about it. The lead actress is really like, they could have cast a better person to be Dracula's daughter. And I like that she was more like kind of, I don't know how to say, denouncing the being a
doesn't
vampire.
want to be a killer. She doesn't want to be a vampire.
No, not at all.
And she burns, like when she burns Dracula's body. I mean, it's kind of cool and morbid. Like she's burning it, like, oh, I'm gonna be free, and she isn't. She's like, fuck. And then she has to give into it. And that's one of my favorite moments is like when she sends the dude out to get her a girl, and he goes out and gets the girl. He tells, like, I don't know if she's supposed to be jumping in the water, like maybe he hangs out at bridges, like looking for suicide victims or something, because like he says something like it's a lot. I know a place warmer than the river. River's cold or something like. It's kind of it's just this line. I don't know if it's just because she's homeless, but why does he mention how cold the river is and they're on a bridge? Like, it makes this girl's thinking about jumping, and he knows that and takes her back. But there's
a hilarious character also, if you really think about it.
What's who?
Sandor, her guy, the guy that goes and gets stuff for or women for her. He's really funny, like the way he talks to her.
Yeah, and he's kind of, it's kind of a having somebody who goes and gets the bodies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, seen that other stuff. It's kind of like a little Hellraiser, a little going to get men and lure them back here. But I mean, and there's also the undertones of lesbianism in that with her and the young girl.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that the first time I saw it, and then you mentioned something about it, and I picked it up more this time, and I saw something somewhere else saying that she could be one of the first like lesbian characters or gay characters on screen.
I think that's what this movie is most known for too.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think they tried, like the studio or whoever was behind it, like trying to tone it down, but it's still there.
Yeah.
It's just not, it's an interesting the sequel. I know they said that they wanted to. Was it Dracula's Guest is what it's based on. It's like a chapter in the novel that wasn't published until later on, and apparently they found out through that Bram Stoker's original novel wasn't copywritten correctly, so Dracula's public domain, but they didn't know that until trying to make the sequel, which probably sucks for Universal because they spent a shitload of money trying to keep Dracula exclusive to them. They bought like all the rights to the novel, all the rights to all the plays when they made Dracula. And then it's also based on a book that came out, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 years before Bram Stoker's book about a female vampire that a lot of people think that Bram Stoker ripped off.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's Carmilla, I think.
Oh, yeah. Carmilla, yeah.
They took a little bit of that book.
I think Hammer made a movie based off of her.
But Bela, they wanted to get Bela in this, and they wanted to get. You mentioned James Well. He was supposed to be the director of the Dracula sequel, but apparently his script that he turned in was like outrageous and would have cost a fortune, so they nixed him or fired him.
That's too bad.
Yeah, it seems like they went through a lot of different starts and not going anywhere on this sequel.
Yeah. Yes, The Vampire Lovers. That's the one that I was thinking of. The Hammer film that is based off of Carmilla. Lots of boobs in that movie, including Ingrid Pitt. Anyway, yeah. I mean, I did like this one better this time around than the last time. I've only seen it twice now, but I did like it better this time around. And I will say that, God, what's her name? Something Holden. I can't think of her first name now. The main character, Gloria Holden, she was really good in that role, and I think that they cast her well. And she was reluctant to even be in the movie, from what I understand, because being afraid of being typecast like Bela Lugosi was. But she came in and she did a great job from the beginning. When you first see her, she's got her everything covered but her eyes, and she's got fantastic eyes, and that's you can really correlate her with Dracula because of that. And that scene where she's going to like see his body, was a really strong scene in that movie. Yeah, this is better than Son of Dracula, I will say.
A whole lot better than Son of Dracula.
Yeah. I don't know why I didn't like it the first time as much, but yeah, not a bad movie. Definitely worthwhile. It's on Peacock if anybody wants to watch it, which I found that out after I had to find my DVD, which was out of the case for some reason. It was actually in my portable DVD player from last year. So, because I was watching my DVD horror movies at work on my lunch break in my car, and I guess I forgot to take the disc out. But that must have been one of the last things I watched was Son of Dracula last year. But anyway, yeah, not a bad movie overall. A cool ending too, I think.
It's just got it's got a lot of good elements. It's just something missing that makes it really good.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of good elements, good performance, good, interesting lead character, some nice little scenes. But at the same time, it's almost forgettable as well.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, well, there's when people talk about Universal horror, they talk about the staples, of course, of Frankenstein, Dracula, Bride, which is funny that Bride being a sequel is one of the staples. But you could almost put the Bride and Frankenstein together in one movie without that part where you see Mary Shelley and her two guys trying to one up each other. But the staples and everything, but people talk about the Wolfman meets Frankenstein or Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, whatever it's called, and some of the sequels. But and the Mummy's Hand is one that I see a lot talked about as being even better than the Mummy, which I don't know about that, but you don't see anyone ever discussing. I had a hard time finding stuff about Dracula's daughter and Son of Dracula. Like, I have no problems finding stuff on the other movies, but those two, nobody really ever covers those. I wrote an article on Son of Dracula 5 years ago from the horrorsyndicate.com, but yeah, there's that, which is funny because that's when I searched Son of Dracula. That was one of the first things that popped up was my article. Like, I know this fucking guy already. I don't need to read this. But yeah, these two don't get really, and then I guess I see why they're not really covered very much. They're not that great.
Dracula, I mean, Bela probably got robbed the movies because I guess Bela wanted too much money, which apparently he got nothing for the first movie because he wanted to play it so bad that he actually got paid like a quarter of what the Manners guy got on Dracula.
Really? That's a shame. He's the headliner.
Yeah, but it's so weird that Dracula is such an iconic character for Universal, and Bela Lugosi was so known for that role, but he only played it twice, and one of them was a comedy. I mean, it's like
years later too.
It's just really fucking weird that.
I mean, he played a Dracula type character in two of the movies.
It's just weird that they didn't just throw money at his ass to get him to do it, and then pull. Get James Whale and fuck what kind of script put your money in that. Can you imagine a James Whale movie with Bela Lugosi as Dracula? And
I know,
I think Karloff and Colin Clive were going to be in it. I think they were trying to work all that. What movie did we miss? Instead, we wait a couple years and we get Dracula's Daughter and Son of Dracula. Just forgettable movies. I mean,
imagine that's something I was thinking about when I found out that James Whale could have directed this Dracula's Daughter. Was like, how great would it have been to see Whale do a Dracula film in general, and I mean, based on what he did with the two Frankenstein films
and The Invisible Man.
Yeah, right.
If he had done and the Old Dark House, if he had done, Dracula's Daughter, I mean, he could have brought his own homosexual experiences into that character. He probably could have made that a much more interesting film or more. He was just the best director of that studio in those movies. Really, that's
not even debatable.
Yeah, there's just no one as good as he was at that time, and yeah, I just feel it's weird because the first three Frankenstein movies are fucking solid gold. And and really, I mean, you can't, like you said, you could count Frankenstein and Bride as one movie because they're both based on the book. I mean, the luxury is it's pulling from the same story that the novel was, both films. So it really is a part one, part two in every way. It wasn't just like, hey, we need more Frankenstein material. It's like, no, we just went to the book again and got more. The material was already there.
Back to what we were doing.
Yeah, just finished the story,
I mean, that's we were talking about last night, movies that you have to watch together, and the Frankenstein. There's no way I can't not watch Frankenstein and then not watch Bride right after. I mean, they're what do they say? Parts of the same puzzle or something like that. I don't know. Two sides of the same coin, essentially. And I can't wait to talk about those because ever since I watched them a couple days ago, whenever that was, I've got Dr. Pretorius on the brain. So, and I Googled, there's a fucking Dr. Pretorius in a town over from me. He practices medicine. I'm not going to him. I'm just saying, I'm not going to him.
He goes in his lab.
Yeah, he'll shrink my ass down. But
what's that actor's name that played Pretorius? He's the one in the Old Dark House too. I have a potato.
Yeah, let me look. Because I don't know offhand. The other one I'm really looking forward to talking about is Son of Frankenstein, which I think it's not like completely underrated, but it's kind of underrated. It's my favorite of the three.
It's overlooked.
Overlooked. There you go.
You know, I mean, rightfully so. Everyone focuses on James Whale's two films.
Yeah, Ernest Thesiger.
Which is natural, but
Ernst Thesiger. The Singer. I don't know. That's Pretorius. It's funny though. Like, I know we're gonna get to these movies, but like, there's side characters in all three Frankenstein movies that kind of take over from the monster itself. Like the creatures, the monster, whatever is the thing that you see in the posters, and But Colin Clive, Pretorius, and Lugosi as Igor in the third movie, they all are bigger than the monster himself, in my opinion, as far as being in the movie. And unfortunately, the one thing that bothers me about Bride and why I don't give it as much as high a praise, I guess, as everyone else, is because it's labeled as the Bride of Frankenstein, and she's in like a minute and a half of movie at the end. I mean, it's very effective, and she looks fantastic. But geez, I wanted to see more of her. She's gorgeous too.
I guess not just it's her. I mean, the second half of the novel is about Frankenstein, the creature wanting a mate.
Yeah.
So, that is kind of what the main second part of the book really is, and that's what the movie is. So it's not just about her, but him wanting her, or wanting a mate, or wanting a female version, because he's alone, he's lonely, and he needs a friend. He needs someone like him.
Yeah.
That won't judge him like everyone else does. And
spoiler alert, she does.
She does.
She screams right when she sees him.
He does not handle rejection very well.
No. But I will say one thing: her performance in that short scene and she also plays Mary Shelley at the beginning.
I love her as Mary Shelley. I love the opening.
Yeah, I do too. Actually,
I know we're talking about Frankenstein already.
Yeah, I know. I'm ready for it. We were supposed to this week. Yeah, I mean, as much as I love Dracula, and I know Seth loves The Wolfman and Creature, those three were really fun movies. The Frankenstein movies are the backbone of the Universal horror movies. There are. I mean, how many are there total? Like 6 or 7?
Yeah. They're
there's the 4 main ones. Then there's Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, and then there's House of Dracula and House of Frankenstein. But those are like the more crossover ones. It's not the monster's just there. It's not really ever about them.
I think mostly any of the first movies are all pretty, I don't know. They're all strong. Frankenstein just has the best sequels.
That's without a doubt.
Franchise.
Well, I mean, I haven't seen all the Invisible Mans, but Invisible Man?
Man's a good series, but still, it's none of them touch the first one.
I'm looking forward to Invisible Woman.
It's a comedy.
Is it really?
It's a slapstick comedy. It's
really?
Oh yeah, it's kind of funny. I mean, I got a kick out of it. But
so I can't add it to my horror list.
I mean, we did forget Mommy's Hand. We do love that one.
Oh, that's yeah. That's.
I mean, the Visible Woman is in that collection, so
that's true. It's a horror comedy.
Yeah, even though
not horror comedy.
But there's literally no horror in it at all, to be honest with you.
We do get Vincent Price as Invisible Man, so
in the second one, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to digging into those, which our episode will be in November for that one. I still have to get a copy of all the other ones. I still haven't done that yet. I was hoping they'd be on that Prime Day sale, but there's other goodies to be had in there. So, but yeah, do you want to talk about Son of Dracula for a few minutes?
I don't remember much, really.
When did you watch it?
I just watched it. I don't really remember.
There's not much. He comes to Louisiana.
What's up, Louisiana, man?
I don't. That's weird. That's the first time
that Dracula go to Louisiana too. America. Out of the blue.
Yeah, it's like, is that why Anne Rice? I mean, she was very. No. Yeah, he comes to Louisiana. He kills some guy. He takes over a girl. She double crosses him. The end, pretty much, right?
I like it.
I mean, I
don't love it, but I like it.
Yeah, I don't not like it, but like watching it again, it just kind of came off stale this time around, you know?
Yeah.
And like it wasn't as like there was just a lot of talking and talk about a stage type play. It kind of felt like that too. It's like we're 12 years beyond Dracula, and this is kind of where we're going at this point. You know, I mean, they had elaborate sets. Huh?
I miss, like, Dracula had the castle and the gothic shit and all that. Like,
yeah.
There's just like that. Like, when I think of Dracula, I think of that. I think of Transylvania. I think of all that. Like, and then the Wolfman, I think of that foggy woods area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Creature, like, they all have these things that are missing from some of these sequels where it's like they didn't want to build those sets, or they didn't want to, you know, they're like they don't feel like Universal horror movies in some ways to me.
No, I can totally see that. They're like a shell of their former self in a way.
They lost what made the German expressionist horror movie so impactful and influential.
Yeah. I think you're right about that.
I really liked the performance from the lead guy, the one that plays the husband of the woman who's with Dracula. You know, especially when he's very guilt ridden when he thinks that he killed her.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
I
thought he was a good. He had a good performance. You know, Lon Chaney Jr. didn't really do much for me as Dracula, but
he had a flask in his cape too.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking. I
don't know. And you know, I really dug the ending. I thought it was pretty deep for one of those type of movies.
Yeah, I think the ending is strong in this one. I also like the ending in the last one too, Dracula's daughter, but sorry, I'm updating my rankings for Universal movies real fast.
There's an interesting question, like, what if Lon Chaney had lived to play Dracula? Apparently, they said he never was because I guess Lamley or somebody really didn't think Lon was right or didn't want Lon Chaney.
That would have a way different movie.
Yeah.
I don't know if it would have had the impact. I mean, the one thing about Lon Chaney Sr., he had like his face. There's some like he has a creepy face. Let's just put it that way. In my opinion, he wasn't very old. I don't think. Maybe was it close to 50?
47.
Yeah. So like, but his face like had this like. You know, he reminds me of a little bit is Ed Harris. If you look at his facial features, that kind of look similar to me. But like, I don't know, there's something about the look on his face. He probably could have been good. Really, he might have been able to play the monster in Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Which his son got to do eventually. Lon Chaney Jr. got to play everything. You got to be the Wolfman, the monster. Did he get to be the Invisible Man?
No, but he was the Mummy.
Yeah, he was the Mummy.
Yeah, and
carrying the flask and bandages.
I feel like I'm forgetting something.
The Mummy, the Wolfman, the Creature, and Dracula, right?
Yeah, he didn't get to be Creature, did he?
No. Not Creature from Black Lagoon.
The monster.
Oh, the
monster. Yeah,
monster.
So many monsters. We got like 10 or 12 more movies to cover in the next couple of weeks.
I watched House of Dracula, but it was kind of forgettable too. I mean,
I don't remember. I mean, I remember you said, should we talk about that? And I was like, is he only in it for like a minute? And then you're like, no, he's in it. I'm like, I must be thinking of the other one.
He does kind of disappear. I don't think he's in the finale. I think the finale, it really turns more, because in that one, it's like this doctor that Dracula and Larry Talbot are trying to get him to cure them.
Yeah.
Of their shit.
And isn't that Karloff?
And
or is that a different movie?
It's not Karloff. It's like, I don't know what the guy's name is, but he kind of goes nuts and kind of becomes Dr. Frankenstein or Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde-ish kind, where he's normally crazy. Was it Karloff playing that character?
I'm fairly certain of it.
In House of Dracula?
I'll look.
I don't think it was Karloff.
I know he's in one of the movies as a doctor. And I swear he was trying
to House of Frankenstein, maybe.
That might be what it is.
He doesn't do it in House of Dracula. It's. I know Karloff did play, but not in this one.
Is House of Dracula the one where they have the skeleton of Dracula with the stake in it, and if you take the stake out, he comes back to life?
No.
Or is that House of Dracula?
John Carradine is Dracula, and he comes as doctor. He's trying to get cured of his vampire.
Dracula with a top hat.
And then, they get, word comes out, and, Larry Talbot thinks maybe this doctor can help me. And Larry Talbot shows up, but he only shows, he doesn't even, he doesn't become the werewolf at the end. He's not the Wolfman by the end of the movie, because maybe he gets cured, I can't remember. But, the guy goes nuts and ends up finding Frankenstein's monster, resurrects it. I think it's Glenn Strange in this one.
Yeah.
And it's basically the finale. What's so funny about some of those movies is so many don't like that. It builds and builds and it goes all the way, and then you finally get to the monsters at the end. The last 3 minutes of the movie is the monsters, and then everything just destroys. The end, everything's falling down, and the monster has fuck all to do in the movie other than die, to be resurrected and die at the end. And I don't know. It's Universal was just milking it so much at that point.
Yeah, House of Dracula I think it was pretty much towards the very bottom of my big Universal ranking list, because it just felt lazy. They didn't bother to address how Larry Talbot's back, and
when was he in Ice?
When was he in Ice?
Wasn't he in Ice? Am I thinking of something different?
The monster?
One of them was in Ice, wasn't
the monster in Ice in one of them?
Yeah, but I think trying to remember, because I know that Frankenstein meets the Wolfman ended with them getting it was I can't remember, but at the end of House of Frankenstein, which is the one before House of Dracula,
that's Larry the one that has Karloff in it.
Yeah, he gets shot in the heart with a silver bullet from the main chick in that one. It was supposed to, and then he turns back into human form and dies, and then. I don't know.
Isn't somebody in Ice at some point? What am I thinking about? Or am I thinking about Christopher Lee drowning in ice, and that's a way to kill Dracula? because that did happen.
Well, I'm trying to remember how House of Frankenstein began with Larry's character, because at the end of Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, there was that battle in Frankenstein's castle, and it got flooded.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember. I know earlier in the movie, Larry.
That's how it begins. Yeah, Karloff. I'm reading it. Karloff and his hunchback. They find the bodies of the Frankenstein monster and Larry Talbot preserved in the frozen castle, and he used to thaw them out. Yeah, okay. Okay, I'm not crazy. I got to rewatch those, just to make sure I don't fuck up. That one wasn't bad, if I remember correctly. Karloff plays like a mad scientist character in that one.
It's got some interesting things in it.
Is that the one with the girl?
Was that?
See, they all kind of run together for me. After Son of Frankenstein, from the Ghost of Frankenstein to the House of Frankenstein, they kind of blur together for me. I got to differentiate each one before we do that show.
The House of Frankenstein was the one with, like, Dracula dies within like the first 30 minutes.
That's the one that I'm talking about. Yeah, which one is the one that they have his body on display, his bones on display with a stake in it?
That's House of Frankenstein.
Okay, yeah. If you take the stake out, he comes back to life.
Yeah.
It's so dumb. Okay, anyway, so yeah, we've got a lot to cover in that Frankenstein episode coming up in a couple of weeks. Next week we are doing Halloween Ends. All of us should have seen it by then at least once. Knowing that it's going to be on Peacock, I'm going to see it in the theater first, because that's how you should do it. And then I'm going to watch it on Peacock a couple times leading up, probably, depending on how I feel about it. I ended up watching Halloween Kills 4 times, I think. And me and Seth almost had a falling out over it. Right? Didn't we get upset about it? I don't remember.
We got a little testy with each other in the group chat.
Yeah, that was dumb. It's probably all my fault too. But I'm curious to see how Halloween ends. And
it's gonna end. Spoiler alert, credits.
Fade to black. Credits roll. There's the end. And evil will be dead tonight.
Yep.
But anyway, yeah. So we did get to talk about all the Dracula movies for the most part. But this Son of Dracula being the weakest of the 3, I think we can all. We all agree on that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, the Dracula's daughter is not terrible. And, Dracula. I don't know. None of them are as good as Jaws 2, but had to get that in there. So remember, we will continue our Universal tour. Not next week, but the week after that with the Frankenstein movies. Next week we're doing a review, in-depth review, and seeing where we place Halloween Ends, which I'm really looking forward to talking about that with you guys. But let's do some quick final thoughts on the Dracula series. What you think, and Renfield the best, right? Yeah.
Are we getting a Renfield movie?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, and Nick Cage is playing Dracula.
Yeah.
I don't know who's playing Renfield.
Isn't Nicholas Hoult?
Nicholas Hoult.
Who's that?
From the
Beast from X-Men First Class.
Oh, Nicholas. Okay.
Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah.
I like him. He almost played Batman. He was, well, not almost, but he was up for it. Oh, the font for the movie is the same as the Dracula film.
Yeah,
that's really cool. Robert Kirkman did the story. He's, of course, Walking Dead. Chris McKay, I'm not sure who that is. His director.
Chris.
Lego Batman movie. Nicholas Hoult, Nicolas Cage, Awkwafina, Ben Schwartz. Is that? Yes, it is. It's John Ralphio. He's my favorite character in that show. Parks and Rec. And Caroline Williams from Texas Stretch is going to be in it? All right. When's that coming out? Have they had a release? Did you guys see the pictures of Nicolas Cage on set?
Yeah.
April 14th, 2023. So we'll see if that's any good. We'll have to talk about that one after we see it. I'm guessing it's going to be a comedy, horror comedy.
Probably.
It says the film stars Nicholas Hoult as Renfield, a henchman of Count Dracula who decides to leave his line of work after falling in love with Awkwafina. Okay, I'm in. Anyway, final thoughts on the Dracula series, Nate.
I don't know. I wish Carl had directed the whole thing. I don't know. It's not my favorite. It's weird because I do fucking love Dracula. I love Bela Lugosi Dracula. I love Renfield. I love the atmosphere. I love the Transylvania, the lore. I like the lore of the vampire. I like the whole Transylvania. I like all the Renfield going into Transylvania and going to the castle and all that stuff's creepy. Like we didn't talk about like Dracula driving the wagon to take him up there is creepy and like all these like there's a lot of cool shit. The brides, but every time I watch Dracula, I feel like it's like there's so much that could have happened that doesn't or should have been like it. I get bored after a while, after like the first act or two, and everything at the end feels just so. It just feels rushed or choppy, and it just it just doesn't flow very well. And again, we talked about like just the introduction to Dracula is so underdone. Like I wish they'd I think if you re-edited that film, it would be better. I just think like I think the opening should be him coming out of the coffin instead of the whole Renfield thing. Like I don't like when they cut to him coming out and like it's just that pan in on him and then he's like walking up the stairs. Like you could take that shot of him walking up the stairs. It's an ugly shot. Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't serve any purpose. It's like, and then you see him just kind of walking down the stairs in the background. It's just so like they said, the Spanish version does that great crane shot up to him standing there on the stairwell. Mm-hmm. It's just handled poorly in my opinion, and I don't know. And it's what's weird is like Todd came from silent film, which was so visually driven, yet it's kind of visually boring the way he does it. And especially you talk about Carl, who was shooting it. He had done some amazing stuff with Fritz Lang and Marnow before this, with camera moves and these exciting ways of shooting things. And I guess those are Todd Browning's shoots. But then again, Todd Browning was very unhappy with what the cuts he had to make. So I think that's why like the word I kept saying with you guys in the chat was it's frustrating. The movie's frustrating for me because I see it's like you had all these amazing toys and you didn't know what to do with them. Like you had this great Bela Lugosi toy to play with and this great Renfield, and you had this great set of the castle, and you had all these great brides and all these things, and like so many things seem missed or wasted. I want a better movie, I think is what it is. I think it could have been one of the like just ball awesome. I mean, it's hard to say that because it's such a beloved movie. So many people love this movie. I think it's one of the greatest horror movies. It inspired so many people. If it wasn't for this movie, I probably wouldn't have gotten I Am Legend because Richard Matheson said that was a big influence on that book because he saw Dracula and said, "What if there was a whole world full of vampires? That would be scary." So
it would be.
It's just weird because it's such a mainstay of my childhood is Count Dracula and Bela Lugosi and that cape and that medallion and the look and the eyes. Like it's like Dracula's good because of some of the visuals, but altogether, I don't like run to it to watch it. Whereas I'm really excited to watch the Frankenstein movies because they're so well done with all the great tools and all the great toys to play with.
Better director too.
So I think that's my feeling is like they're just not they're frustrating to me because I think if James Whale had directed Dracula, maybe we would have got a really fucking great movie.
That would have been a good movie. I do like this Dracula the way it is, but I could see what you're saying 100%. I think there's a lot of iconicisms in that movie with the way he looks, the castle set, some of the lines like "Listen to them, children of the night," what music they make, and stuff like that. I think that's kind of I think that has a lot to do with why it's so beloved. And of course, as I said earlier on, this is when people think of Dracula, the first thing they think of generally is Lugosi. So, or the way he looks. And from this movie on, that was what Dracula looked like, with the cape, the shirt, red inside the cape, all that.
He's perfect. Like all the miscomings I'm talking about have nothing to do with what Lugosi did.
Yeah.
It's the film, it's the editing and the shots and things like that. Like he's acted, he is dedicated as fuck to that role.
Yeah.
Like there is no question that he's giving you everything.
I just thought about Ed Wood, Martin Landau playing Lugosi, which was great. And I just, for some reason, I remember there's a lot at one point. Johnny Depp mentions Karloff. He goes, "Fuck Karloff." Yeah. I just thought about that for some reason in my head.
That Rodney cocksucker can rot in hell. Like, yeah.
I love that movie. That movie is underrated, I think. I don't think enough people talk about it.
I saw that movie opening day in an empty theater, and it was gone in a week. And I'm like, this is one of the best movies this year. And
I didn't get to see it till cable, but I fucking love that movie. It's so good. That's Tim Burton, right?
Yeah, I think it's my favorite Tim Burton movie. Yeah. I hear like a lot of people got mad because apparently Bela and Boris were really good friends, and that was not real. Like that.
It could have been real, just because he may have said "fuck Karloff" at some point. But anyway, that if not for Batman and Batman Returns, that'd be my favorite Tim Burton movie. Just gonna say. Seth, what about you? Your impressions? I know you're foaming at the mouth to get to Frankenstein since we're passing up the Wolfman.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I literally grew up with the first Dracula movie. Like it's been in my life for a very long time, and so I still love and adore it. Despite its flaws, and I just. Again, the performances, especially from Dwight Frye and Bela, is great. And, I've said this before, if you watch it, especially with the Philip Glass score, it really enhances the movie, I think.
Oh, we didn't talk about that. I forgot about that, yeah.
I think it really makes the movie stronger. Especially the confrontation between, Dracula and Van Helsing when Van Helsing shows him the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Just the score is just so cool at that moment, and it just really enhances and makes it more intense. But yeah, I mean, I've always loved the movie. I think it's definitely the strongest of that franchise.
Without a doubt.
Dracula's Daughter and Son of Dracula they're watchable. But I don't go for them very often. I think when I go for my Legacy Collection set, it's just for the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
But
which is kind of a shame, in my opinion, that they only were able to, and Nate even, we mentioned this before, only able to make one Dracula movie with Lugosi. But Lugosi does have two other Dracula type movies that are really good, like Return of the Vampire is one of them. And Mark of the Vampire, I think, is the other one, which I believe Paramount made those. I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I mean, and plus the one thing about the Return of the Vampire, it was kind of like a bite in the ass, I think, or like a shot at Universal when they made it. Because he's got a Wolfman character, and if you haven't seen it, I absolutely suggest seeing both of them or at least one of them, especially Return of the Vampire, because when we talk, one of the things that I think Dracula does have going for it is atmosphere, and the Return of the Vampire is oozing with fucking atmosphere. It feels like a Universal movie, and I think Paramount, if that's who did it, which I want to look, I'll look later. But no, I'll always love the Dracula movie. It will always probably reign number one for me. And I hate saying it's nostalgia of growing up with it and all that stuff, but that's true. Whereas I adore the Son of Frankenstein because of the performances from Lugosi. It's Carlos Last as the monster. Basil Rathbone is out of his mind amazing in that movie, and so is Lionel Atwill. So I can't wait to talk about that movie. It's one of my favorite Universal movies. But yes, as far as daughter goes, it's okay, and son is completely forgettable. If not that one scene that I really like, where the guy shoots at Alucard and it goes right through him and hits the woman he loves. I love that scene, but for the most part, it's forgettable. The only thing that's memorable is Lon Chaney's mustache. So. Anyway, hey Alex. Alex is late. Well, we're not on our usual night. So anybody who watches this, we normally do our shows on Wednesday. Nate's planning a field trip for tomorrow. Hopefully get some good pictures. We're skipping tomorrow's episode. Unless Seth wants to go for a 3 for 3 days in a row, we can talk about Halloween. I don't know. But yeah, our normal shows at 6:30 Central on Wednesdays or 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 on the West Coast. Next Wednesday, we'll be talking about Halloween Ends in the Halloween series as a whole, I think. And one of the things I'd like to do is talk about, like, at some point, maybe not in that episode, but talk about each branch of the Halloween saga, whether it's the Thorn or the Loomis trilogy or this trilogy or H2O, and which ones are the strongest, or which ones are, what I'm saying, like maybe even rank them, which this could end up being the strongest depending on how it ends. But yeah, so more than likely no show tomorrow. We'll be back next Wednesday with Halloween Ends, and then Wednesday following we'll be talking about the Frankenstein Universal movies. So lots of fun. For sure. Thanks, guys, for hanging out. Sorry Jared couldn't make it tonight. That's okay. He'll be on next week, hopefully. Anything else before we go, guys?
Evil Dies Tonight.
There it is.
There it is.
All right. You guys have a great night, and we'll see you on Wednesday. Bye.